Hello, this is Sana from Ready and Thriving, and today we're going to start an indoor herb garden. So we're going to germinate from seeds, grow them up to big enough to be in pots, and then be able to use those for all of our cooking and baking needs. It's a great sustainable way to be able to have herbs and really not be wasting those. So if you buy them from the grocery store, often there's just too much of one particular herb to use at once. They don't last that long, and you end up wasting them. These here, then we can grow them directly from seed, so very low cost, and then they keep replenishing themselves, and you only use what you need. This whole past summer, I was using all the herbs from outside, but indoors gives us some new opportunities. One is, of course, to not be subject to the weather, so you always have every herb whenever you want it. The other is that the fauna around here doesn't allow me to have certain herbs, in particular sweet basil. So I'm looking forward to growing sweet basil and not having the animals steal it. So let's take a look at what we've got here. I follow the principle of mise en place, which means everything in its place to get things going. So what we've got here is, let's start with looking at the seeds. I was able to find a whole kit, and there are a lot of them that have a number of good herbs. So find the one that you like. This is a healthy herb collection, and they had a lot of those that I wanted. The sweet basil that I was after, and oregano and dill and some other great ones. It didn't have everything I wanted, so I supplemented it with some chives that I want to make sure to have as well. And then the next step that I've done here is I've made name tags for each of the different herbs that I'm growing. And these are just popsicle sticks that I've just written the name on. And in particular, if it is a particular variety where I may have more of the same, then I've written the variety. Otherwise, I've just labeled the herb. So for example, the thyme there, this is German winter thyme. But I may also later grow some lemon thyme, so I just made sure to put that variety on there. I'm going to use those name tags not only for being in the pots while they're growing, but actually during germination too, just to help to keep everything square. So to germinate the seeds, I'm going to use a biosponge. You can see there's a system that's basically like a little mini greenhouse. It's got a cover with some ventilation on the top. It's got little segments inside, and inside those you put sponges. And it's such an easy way to germinate seeds. I've used it for flowers around my landscape, also for ground covers, and of course my food garden. And that's been especially good. I think the cucumbers in particular, they grew up so fast, and I was able to get those into the garden and growing nice and healthy. So we're going to use that today. Makes it super simple. Basically, what I'm doing here is it has sponges that you get that are really kind of like compacted soil. But what's really nice about them is that they are sponges and that they sit in a system that then draws water up from the bottom. So that keeps it at the optimal moisture all the time. Also, with a little bit of fertilizer in that water, you're also supplementing with all the nutrients that you need to germinate. So you get a really good yield using these. What's also makes it super easy is that there's a little hole drilled so that you can put the seed right inside. And depending on the type of seed, I'll either put 1, 2, or if they're the real tiny little ones, then we will put them just however many end up on the top of these. And then you can just plant this directly into the ground or into the pot where the plant will live. So first, before we start germinating the seeds, because they're sponges, I wanted to just get them really moist. So this is water. I've put a little bit of fertilizer in, and I'm just letting those absorb absorb ahead of time. Then we'll put these in to the system and also still use this water and just pour it in underneath. And that way nothing's wasted, you know, all the fertilizer goes to use. One thing that I really like about germinating the things myself is, you know, not only that it is lower cost, but you really do have control over how the items are grown. So you can buy organic seeds such as these. You can use organic fertilizers. You can have, you know, a really healthy system. You know exactly what's been in those plants, and you can grow really healthy, hardy plants yourself. Okay, so the sponges, the biosponges, have been soaking for about 15 minutes in the water that had a little bit of fertilizer in. So now I just want to put them in to the biosponge system. All the sponges ready to go within the herb area. I had made a few extra, and that way I'll germinate for some additional seeds for some outside garden plants that I want to get started super early so they have time to grow. Now, all that water that we were soaking the sponges in, we're just going to pour that in. And let me show you inside there. You can see that there's some water actually that you can see in these holes. That means that's reaching the bottom of these sponges here and being able to moisten those sponges. And that way it'll keep the seeds moist exactly how they should be to germinate really fast and easy. So now we're going to start germinating. We'll put the seeds on and we'll start one by one. We'll start with the chives. Now they do have different types of seeds, so want to show you how that'll work. I mentioned the hole on here, which is great to put one or two seeds. For those of you who know what chive seeds look like, they are the tiniest little items, and we're not going to count out two. So when they're really small like this, we actually don't even want to put them into the hole because they might fall through. We just want to put a few on the top. So I'm going to put some on my finger, make sure that there's just a few on the top of each one of these sponges. Now I'll just make sure that I've got all the chive seeds off of my fingers because we don't want to cross-contaminate between the different herbs. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, you know, want to keep it nice and easy once I get them into the pots that I know exactly what I've got in there. So a lot of these herb seeds are really tiny, like the chives that I showed you. But the dill is a little bit larger. So those we can actually pull out and put in just one or two into each of those holes. That'll really help these to grow at their best. They will be then surrounded by the moisture and be in a great place to be able to put those roots down deep in the hole. Now, since we're just using just a couple of seeds per, and I'm making a rather small herb garden here just for indoor use, I'm going to have a lot more of the seeds left. I don't want to waste those, so I am just going to seal them up the best that I can and keep those. Okay, so we've now planted all the seeds, really quick and easy. So what I'll do over the next few days, I will continue to make sure that there's enough water in there. And in here, it'll be about a ½ inch to a ¼ inch of water at the bottom, just to make sure that they have enough. And then we'll watch closely as hopefully those tiny little seeds become seedlings. So let's just put that lid on and get ready for them to grow. So we've got the lid. I am closing the vents for now to make sure that they are really nice and sealed up, keeping really most of the moisture inside and to allow that true greenhouse effect. If it does start to get kind of too moist in there, then we just open those up, get a little ventilation in. So now we'll just put the unused seeds away in a nice, safe and dry place. Someplace that will keep it out of the sun and that they're protected from the elements. So I've found that wine crates or beer crates are great for this. Here are the extra sponges and some different types of fertilizer that I have. So now we just put the seeds in a nice safe place and let them germinate. So if that is in fact at the top of your fridge or someplace like that, that's fine. They don't actually need sunshine right in the beginning. However, they will ultimately. So I've gone ahead and already put them in a sunny area. So we've got sun all the way down with this window, and I've just put a little system here to be able to have them grow right here. This is also where I'll keep the plants going, and as I grow other plants and get them ready for the garden to come, I'll also be able to grow them right here in this area with these little shelves. I chose to have a little shelf right here at the end of my kitchen counter, so that'll be great for the herbs, but also very convenient when growing all the other plants too. So I've just chosen a very convenient portable shelving system to be able to fit exactly the length of my kitchen counters and to also keep the profile underneath the kitchen counters, and that way it's really out of sight and does get that sunshine that we need. So from the seeds, we start to see a little bit of growth. Sometimes you'll see the green tops, and sometimes you'll see little white roots first. Then they'll just grow. Mostly what I've done is just leave them alone. What I have done is I just kind of kept a little bit of an eye on it just to see if when I did get a little bit of condensation, then I started to open up these little vents just to make sure to keep it nice and healthy in there. And so I did that. And the other thing I did was I just tried to make sure that there was water in there. And with this, it floats on top, so you can see, oh, the water level went down. So I did add water once. And that's it. That's all I did. So with all of that wonderful growth happening, they've done it themselves. So now let's take a look at what's the next step. What I can see here is some of these have grown into nice, thick bushes, if you will. Now let's take a look at this dill, and you can see, remember, we just put in 1 or 2 seeds in there, and those are doing really nicely. They are a little bit spindly, but they're tall, so we want to help those out. I think it's about time to move those into pots where they can start to grow out and fill out a bit. And you can see they've got some really nice looking roots even coming out of the side, so they are ready to move into the next stage. Let's take a look at these. These are parsley, and those are doing really nicely too. We probably have a few too many plants. Remember, we had to sprinkle a few of the small ones on the top, and so we probably have a few too many, just like some of these bushes. So with any of those, it does kind of feel a little unnatural, but we are going to want to thin these. So any of them that don't look quite as good as the others, though frankly all of these look really healthy, I will want to just kind of pinch a couple of these off to allow a bit more room and space for the others to grow nice and big. So I'll just thin that out a bit. Like I said, it does feel unnatural after all that trouble of growing them to do that, but we are really going to help the others to grow nice and big and strong. Now I will go ahead and leave some on this side and some on this other side, because when I go to planting, I can more easily separate those out. So that's what I'll do now with all of these, is all of these that are bunched, I will just thin them a bit, and then we'll leave those to continue to grow, and they can still stay in here and they can grow a bit taller. The only ones I'll move out now are those dill, because they were already so tall, and we want to get them into a place where they can just start to fill out and really come into their glory. So we'll go ahead and take those out, but really great success so far. And once I thin those, then I will just again become pretty much negligent. So I will just keep water in there until they get up a bit higher and taller, and then we'll plant those out as well. And now it's time to plant them into their forever pot. This will be the pot that is indoors that they will be living in. So I do like to be sustainable and just use pots that I have had from other seedlings or that sort of thing, so to reuse things if you can. But the main thing that you'll be looking for is something that's big enough to actually let that plant thrive and get large enough, but that's also small enough and has a small enough footprint that it'll fit conveniently still in your kitchen or where you want to keep your herbs. So I've already been replanting a lot of these, and I've got today now, for example, lots and lots of parsley. That did really well. It took a little bit longer time, but now it's really come on. You want to keep it pretty easy and simple. Basically, you take this pot. We're going to use an organic potting soil or garden soil. Here I'm using garden soil, mostly because that's what I had in place. And I don't want to fill it all the way up because it's more chance of spilling or when I'm watering for it to go over the top, but to get up there pretty high because that'll be the base of the plant and we want it to be able to pop above and get a lot of sun. So I've got about 1 centimeter below the lip here, and I've got the soil already ready to go. So now, using this planter, remember it has these little pods, and these can actually be planted directly into the soil. So if your roots are in there, make sure to go ahead and just plant the whole thing. Makes it also nice and easy that way. Now you'll see it's kind of drooping, and that's really because it hasn't had the chance yet to grow upwards and to have that tensile strength. It will develop that now that it's in a stronger home. You'll also see that actually I didn't have the lid on it, and that is because I started the process of so-called hardening the plants before doing this. And that's basically, I just took the lid off so it was less of a hothouse flower and starting to get used to the regular climate in which it'll grow. Now look at the amazing parsley already coming on this one. You'll see I'm putting more than one in here. I don't want to overcrowd. Remember, we did have to thin these, which was painful to get rid of wonderful viable plants. However, we are in a good space here that I can probably get about 3 of these in here comfortably without them crowding each other. Now, if the plants do get much, much larger and start to encroach, that'll be a good problem to have because we'll just be using the parsley and it'll naturally thin. So I like to put at least 3 good batches into each. And there isn't as much on these. So I think I'll actually just take these out gently and plug those in. So you can also do that. You don't have to use the plug. It is a nice way to kind of give it from its old home into its new home, but it's not necessary. Now I do have a little bit of an uneven top, and I want to make sure that everything is nice and level. So now I'll just put a little bit more of the soil on top, just so I can press that in. So now we've got all that parsley in there, and since this is new soil, I'll now take it indoors to its new home and give it a good water, good soaking all the way through. Make sure to get any types of air pockets out and to make sure to give it that first good comfortable place in its home. Now it does have holes on the bottom, and that is what we want. We want good drainage. So I'll make sure, since it's in the kitchen, to also have a nice platter underneath that catches that water so I don't have it dripping down into my home. So another great repurposing for your herb garden is to take the top of an egg carton and use that as your drip tray. So we can just use these plastic pieces, cut this piece off, and then we have wonderful drip tray. Now, using an egg carton is nothing new. We used to use them all the time when they were made of cardboard because they were great and perfect for making your seedlings. Now they still are, however, you would need to poke holes in the bottom of this to make sure that you have drainage. If you do have the cardboard type, then you don't even have to do that. And it's just wonderful. You put soil in there and seeds that like to be grown in soil. That's the perfect way to get them started. So now the herbs that we've grown from seed, we now have planted into their permanent pots, and they have been deeply watered and also are now in drip trays, ready to grow, still making sure that they get sun every day and a good amount of sun. And they're in the kitchen, so they're easy to use, ready to go. We'll let these continue to grow and thrive and get bigger and bigger. So this basil already is big enough to start to use, and this thyme is starting to really get there. You obviously don't want to traumatize the plant too much, especially in these early days, right? This parsley needs a little bit of help, and it needs some time to really grow and thrive. But once it does, then you can just pinch off herbs and use them directly from the plant. It's a great way to use more herbs, make much more delicious food, and also do it in a very sustainable way, because you can use just what you need when you need it and not be left with herbs that you've bought elsewhere wilting or going to waste. This is Sana from Ready and Thriving, and I hope this was really helpful. If it was, please hit subscribe and be inspired by new projects that will help you thrive in your everyday life.